What can we do to bring about change so that women can be liberated to all forms of ministry and leadership today? What can we do to empower and release more female leaders? And what can we do to amplify the voices and honour the gifts of women today? Well, number one, get real about empowering female leadership. Too often, we give a nod to women in ministry and leadership, but do nothing to bring about change. It's one thing to limit women's ministry because of a biblical conviction. It's a shameful thing to say you're egalitarian or all in favour of women in leadership and then do nothing to make that a reality. We need to move beyond giving a nod to females in leadership and actually prioritise this and do something about it now. Number two, enable women to sit at the table. Most Christian organisations and churches don't enable women to sit at the table. We need to create space for women to sit at the table. Just like men, women need spaces where they can contribute and learn and grow. No one became a brilliant leader overnight. We all need support, permission, and mentoring. We all need to take risks, to make mistakes, to grow into leadership. So just like men, women need people who believe in them, who help them believe in themselves. So what can we do? Well, make sure that women are at the leadership table in our churches and teams and boards, especially in leadership roles and on boards. Find ways to coach and mentor women into senior leadership roles. This won't happen without intentionality. Number three, help women see women at the table. It's really hard to believe that you can do something if you don't have role models. So we need to help women see other women at the table. This involves promoting women into senior leadership positions. By the way, if you think that's tokenism, you haven't been paying attention to the talented women all around you. Number four, transform male-dominated cultures. The church is one of the most male-dominated organisations on the face of the earth. Male-dominated and or patriarchal organisational cultures are everywhere in the church. So we need to address and change this culture. What are the existing attitudes towards women in the church and family? And how do we shape healthier and more honouring attitudes towards women? What gets rewarded or penalised in male-dominated cultures? And how do we change that? What is our churches or organisations' leadership model? And how does it reward men and restrict women? Sometimes women can feel pressure to conform to the male leadership models. What are the alternatives to this? We need to examine our recruitment practices and our leadership development models and processes. We need to invite women into our leadership training and development structures and programs, asking women to help us reshape them so that they are accessible and relevant to both women and men. Organisational cultures don't fix themselves. They resist change. Transforming male-dominated organisational and leadership cultures takes courage and hard work, but it's worth it. Number five, model and esteem real professional and personal partnerships. We need to model and esteem real partnerships between women and men, both professional partnerships in the workplace and in the church, and personal partnerships in friendships and marriage. And we must encourage girls and women to settle for nothing less than real partnerships. Number six, build cultures where women and men can equally succeed. The church needs to make a commitment to build an environment where women and men can equally succeed. This involves addressing misogyny and sexism and patriarchy. It means settling for nothing less than equality and honour for all people, all women and all men. It means addressing subtle and unrecognised prejudices and barriers. and showing the world what redeemed and restored gender and personal relationships truly look like. The challenge will be getting really practical in how we encourage women to be assertive, more confident, and to reach for promotions and opportunities. But the challenge is also in addressing the hidden prejudices and barriers and sexism and the patriarchal cultures and addressing the cultural and leadership dynamics that prevent women from succeeding and thriving. We need Christian leaders who value this and who can release those values into marriages, families, churches, teams, businesses, and organisations. Number 7, stop talking and start listening. Again, if you're a man, stop talking and start listening to women. What are they saying to you and to your behaviour, attitudes, church, and postures? Listen to the voices and concerns of women. Number 8, honour all women. Honour, listen to, and celebrate all women. Sometimes we honour and profile only a certain kind of strong or forceful women. But what about the voices of other women in our churches? Those who are quieter and who work behind the scenes, for instance. What is God saying to us through those voices? How can we get better at listening and learning from them and honouring all women? Number 9, examine your beliefs and practices. Ask questions about how you're using scripture and religious traditions. Examine your beliefs and practices. Are they limiting women's rights, views, and ability to lead? Or are these honouring and valuing and elevating women, inviting them to the table as equals, who are fully able to use all the gifts and abilities that God has given them? Number 10, embrace reciprocal mentoring. Embrace reciprocal mentoring is about learning from women, pairing men and women up so that established men and established women, emerging men and emerging women can mentor each other reciprocally. The goals are to learn from each other, to break down unconscious bias, to enrich churches and organisations, to flip our traditional ideas of mentoring on their heads. Number 11, get proactive about women speakers. Ensure that women are speaking at your church services and at your events. Develop, profile, and listen to female speakers. If you're able, help women by making introductions to conference organisers once or twice a year. Don't just make sure that women are involved in speaking at conferences, on panels or seminars. Also ensure that they are planning those events. Without a real commitment and measurable goals, no change will happen. Number 12, ask what you're willing to give up and gain. If you're a male leader, pastor, preacher, or conference speaker, it's time to process if you're willing to give up something. What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to lose your spot for the sake of the church hearing female voices? Number 13, profile female Christian leaders. Talk about female Christian leaders whenever you can. Ensure that your congregation, family, and college class learn about the stories of contemporary and historical female leaders. Read books written by women. Add them to your curriculum. Listen to talks delivered by women. Look for histories that elevate women. Profile the stories of women in leadership and of women pursuing discipleship and faith in everyday life. Let me give you the words of Diana Butler Bass. I hope that we will finally get beyond the idea of Christian women leaders being some special subset of Christian community. Women are the majority of Christians around the world. We are the heartbeat of living faith. The media spends too much time covering male leaders and then a small subset of authoritarian conservative men, as if they are the voice of the church. They're not. Women are. All the women who preach, the women who write theology, the women who pray, the women who serve, those who hold the hand of the sick and dying, those who care for children, those who feed the hungry, those who embrace the poor and visit the prisoner, those who weep and mourn for the pain they've suffered, those who find that God's love is more beautiful and trustworthy than those who abuse them. That's the church. A church that knows no facile forgiveness or partisan spin, but the church that understands grace, peacemaking, and mercy. And that church is rarely heard in public because it's too busy living out its faith. Jesus and Paul and God honours, elevates, respects women, and so should we.